This week, tune into the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
Forget Star Wars. We have Alabama Clemson Part 3. It is coming, and we bring in Damien Harris to give us a peek as the Tide gets ready.
Can't wait. Plus, Josh Heupel takes over at UCF, and the former national champions quarterback joins us to talk about how he plans to keep the Knights rolling.
And are you ready for bowl games? They start on Saturday, and we will be joined by Boise State's Brian Harsin to talk about the Broncos matchup in Vegas. The show starts now.
The weekend's full of surprises, from big upsets to rivalry. On the Finebaum Show, Paul's on a roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul.
Can I get an amen from you?
He'll make sense of it all.
Hey, at least we're rational.
Yeah, we'll call Paul.
Please don't tell my wife what's going on here in the afternoon. Welcome to Thursday, and look who we found.
I'm just glad to find you. Where have you been? I mean, honestly, you had barricaded me out of the studio, people. So I was able to force my way back in, but it's been difficult.
Yeah,
truly.
we believe it or not, we show up here every day. Some people don't.
Oh, well, are you talking about Randy behind the camera? Because I don't see him here today.
No, nobody's here.
It's good to be with you.
Just the two of us and a field of thousands. And we're not forgetting Alabama Clemson Part 3, the trilogy. Yeah, we've seen this movie before, Laura.
Yeah, I really believe that as good as the first two have been, the third may be even better. It's funny because a lot of times sequels and all that aren't as good, but I think this one will be. Damien Harris from Alabama, kind enough to join us now, Paul. Damien is like our number one guest all the time. It's like if we can have a guest, well, let's go.
Well, we had Jalen on once, and you made fun of his hair, so he hasn't come back since.
Well, Jalen and I are still trying to work through that. It was actually you that made fun of his hair.
Okay.
I was complimenting the hair, and then you ended up getting the hair on your head. Anyway, Damien, we're so glad to have you. What have you been up to, man? It's obviously a while until this game, but a ton of prep to put in, certainly over there in Alabama.
Right. You know, we're just, first of all, we're thankful for the opportunity to play for another national championship. And we know that we've got a tough opponent coming up, and we've just been trying to prepare ourselves in the best way, so we'll be ready for that game.
Damien, I am really curious. You're used to playing in championship games the last couple of years. What did you guys do that weekend, and was it good I know you got in, but do you think the rest will help as you get ready for this big game?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the time off will benefit us. We've had some guys banged up, and I think it would be good for those guys to have that rest and have that time off and time to get treatment. So, we've just been kind of doing our workouts, running, conditioning, trying to stay in shape, and we look forward to starting practice soon. But we're definitely thankful for the time off, and we're looking to play our best football.
Damien, you're sort of the elder statesman of this running back group that is one of the best, if not the best, backfields in the country. What has it been like this year just sharing carries among these guys? Because you have so many different options there who bring different elements to the game depending on what you need at any given moment.
I think it's been a great opportunity for us, and I think it's been good having a lot of guys that can go in and have success. And having guys that can go in and get that experience and get those plays and just kind of feel their way for the game, I think that it'll help us in the long run. We have a lot of guys that can go in and be dependent on to make plays whenever, their number's called. So I think it's been really beneficial for us. And, we're still working hard as a group to continue on and continue playing at a high level.
Damien, I know you're preparing for this game, but the media is trying to figure out a new angle to the third part. It seems this time it's a little bit different from our end, that maybe no one's giving Alabama enough respect or giving them too many opportunities to win. What's it like on your side of it when you hear that type of noise, or do you hear it at all?
No, that's actually the first time I've heard that. But we say it all the time.
Paul's over here just spewing noise your way. Don't let him get in your way, though.
Rat
Seriously.
poison, right?
Rat poison.
Yeah, I actually just made that up, Jamie, and see if you would react.
No, but, we're not really worried about what people on the outside say. We know that we're facing a great opponent, and it's a team that we've played the past 2 years, and it's been 2 great games. So we're just trying to play our best football, prepare our best. So we know it's going to be another close game, another good game, and we're just trying to get ready for it.
You know, obviously, Damien, you want to get into the college football playoffs, so you're not going to sit there and say, well, we'd rather play this guy or we'd rather play this team. But Clemson is such a tough team. They're obviously the #1 seed. What are your thoughts on having to play them again? And are you excited about the opportunity to avenge what happened last year?
Definitely. That's definitely a way we're looking at it, trying to avenge our loss last year. It was a tough loss, and it's almost like they've become our kind of rivals, if you will. But we know that, like I said, they're a tough team, and they play really well this year, and they've earned that #1 ranking. But, again, it's about how we play. It's about us as a team. And we feel like if we do what we need to do, we'll be capable of coming out with a win.
Damien, what's it like right now? Because most of us our biggest concern is going Christmas shopping. We're not worried about it. We're worried about getting to the game, but not worried about preparing. So as a player, this is a long build-up. Take us through what you guys are going through every day.
Just preparing for a game. The holidays are important. Christmas is important. But at the end of the day, we have a big football game coming up. And so we're not really worried about Christmas shopping and things like that. We're worried about practice, lifting, conditioning, doing all the little things that we need to do, watching tape, getting treatment, everything you need to do to help you be the best player that you can be come January 1st. That's what we're focused on.
So, Damien, we asked Coach Saban if he watched the selection show, and he said he didn't because he was busy with recruits, but was able to come back into his office and was told that Alabama was in. Did you watch the selection show? And if so, what was it like for you?
Funny story. So me and a couple of the guys on the team got together and watched it at one of our teammates' apartment, and it was on it wasn't on cable, so we were watching it on the internet or something, like the ESPN app. And it kept freezing every 5-10 minutes. And we knew that right whenever they announced the #4 seed, that it was going to freeze. So right before they announced it, the whole app shut down and froze up. And so we were kind of like, well, what are we going to do? But we heard people outside next door screaming, and then we all looked at our phones and it said that we got in. So we didn't really see it, but we knew that we had got in based on everybody else's reaction.
Okay, I know what you're trying to do. You want me to get you a TV for Christmas, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'll take one of those.
No, he just promoted the ESPN app. We appreciate that,
Yeah, but the
Damien.
problem is
Good
the app
job.
froze.
Well, yeah, okay, but maybe that was his internet signal. It wasn't the app's fault. Damien needs better internet. Well, his friend's apartment needs better internet.
Quite a few people were watching. Well, Damien, you missed a good show. I was there for the entire couple hours. But speaking of that, you without having time to, or do you have time for Christmas? I know you act like there's no time, but come on. I mean, you got Christmas presents to get, don't you?
Yeah, hopefully. But we get a little bit of time off. We get 2 or 3 days to see our families and spend time with our families at home and kind of celebrate. But right after that, it's kind of back to work.
We will see you in New Orleans, Damien. We absolutely cannot wait. It's going to be a blast.
Damien, what should I get Coach Saban?
I don't know. Maybe a national championship if you can bring that to us.
I think you could. I think you could help more than I could.
Paul might try to get out there and help, but it really wouldn't do a whole lot. No offense, Paul.
Good to see you, Damien.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
You got it.
Hey, I know we've talked about this before. If you could play football, what position would you play?
Quarterback.
Oh, because you're such a signal caller, or
I'm just so athletic.
Would you be dual threat?
I would probably just hand the ball off.
Yeah, well, you're a game manager type. That's kind of what you do anyway. This game, Paul, has so much that you could point to. I think
you would be the coach, I'm sure.
Well, definitely. I have no athletic talent, so I would have to be on the sideline. But I think what a lot of people look at, and Dabo Swinney said this, he's like, I mean, really? I have to play Nick Saban again? I have to play against this Alabama team that has time to get healthy. Damien just mentioned it. Having that time to get healthy, with that known and assuming that 7 of 8 defensive starters that have been out will be back, what are you most excited about in this one?
Well, I want to see if, first of all, Alabama can improve on offense. I mean, they were abysmal against Auburn, especially on third down. So I'm really curious about that because everyone knows, when you'll hear it ad nauseum from here until New Year's Day, about the Clemson defense and how difficult it is. But I just want to see this game in the fact that it's not the championship game. And I frankly am glad it's not. I'm not against three-peats and the same game. We've seen it in the NBA. We've seen it in other sports. But I think it's more intriguing this way. And I think the thing that you just said helps Alabama a little bit because they finally, we think, will play healthy, which they have not in the second half of the season.
I also think, too, giving them time to game plan is scary. And it's not that they didn't have enough time before Auburn. I mean, let's just face it. At that point in the season, Auburn was playing the best football of any team in the country, and they were at home, and there were advantages there, certainly. But you saw Georgia with time to game plan for Auburn, a team that they had seen before, the way they were able to bounce back. Kirby Smart, of course, Nick Saban Jr. in a lot of ways, but no one does it quite like Saban. And then that said, Dabo Swinney on the other side has proven that he deserves to be in that conversation with Saban. If not, I mean, hey, if they win this game, if Clemson wins this game, some people will say Dabo in this current time has surpassed Saban.
Well, I laugh because they would say that. And with 2 championships, I would suggest to Dabo, get 3 more, and you've tied with Saban. I always thought the better conflict would be Urban versus Saban because Urban would then have 4. Urban apparently just can't get there. So
he might. Hey, watch out next year or something and figure it out.
But Dabo Swinney, I think, is now on that front row of great coaches, and Saban and Urban are there. Dabo is certainly, I think, next, and a title would really mean a lot from that standpoint. And I think people would start to say, well, okay, what's going on with Saban? He hasn't won a title in a couple of years. That's how we view Nick Saban. It's win or bust, and I think in many ways, Laura, a similar thing can be said about Clemson right now.
It's true. Everyone's expecting them to be in the conversation, even though coming into the season they were ranked 5th. Some people wondered what would they be without Deshaun Watson. Yeah, you did. I think a lot of us did because we didn't know what they were going to become. And obviously they lost to Syracuse, but they have looked as one of the best teams in the country and obviously deserving of that #1 spot. You mentioned Urban Meyer, his Ohio State team not making it in the college football playoff, but they do get, this as a consolation prize, the Cotton Bowl, one of the best Cotton Bowls I think we've seen in quite some time with the Pac-12 champion and Big Ten champion there. And USC, by the way, has won 4 of 7 previous bowl meetings. They're meeting in a bowl for the 8th time, and this was the last time Ohio State won in 1970.
By the way, that is not HD, folks.
What? 1974. This is the Rose Bowl.
This is what TV used to look like, Laura.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with this, honestly. Paul, this wasn't that long ago. I mean, how we have advanced. My goodness. Which, that's important.
I actually, believe it or not, remember a time when we got our first color TV. That's how.
Well, what was that like for you?
It was a big deal. We had all the neighbors over. It was. You were cool back then if you had color TV. Now,
yeah, I mean that was how you made friends, right?
Well, it was always difficult for me to make friends.
That cannot be true. Okay, so USC, Ohio State, a lot of people talking about the playoff and the great matchups we have in the Rose Bowl and the Sugar, but this Cotton Bowl matchup is fascinating. To me, you think about USC, they were almost an afterthought on that selection day, but they shouldn't have been in some people's minds. They did have a terrible loss to Notre Dame. That hurt them.
They both had epic losses. That's
it. Both these teams in USC and Ohio State had epic losses, leaving them out of the playoff. Right. You wonder if maybe USC's a little more motivated just considering what happened to Ohio State. But I have a hard time thinking that an Urban Meyer-coached Ohio State team is not going to be motivated for this. This could be one of the best bowl games we see for the entire bowl season.
No, I mean, this is a golden matchup from yesteryear, and you have arguably 2 of the biggest fan bases in America. Some would throw others in there, but I mean, SC and Ohio State, it's classic. And you think about this game in the Rose Bowl. You don't really think about this game in the Cotton Bowl because they played in so many Rose Bowls throughout the 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s. But this is a little foreign. But I think for SC, all eyes on Sam Darnold. What's he going to do? He's still projected very high, and for Ohio State, it will be the last time we hear the name J.T. Barrett. I mean, that's a name that we've been talking about forever.
So, yeah, right. J.T. Barrett's been there about 8 years, which is awesome for him. And by the way, I mean, I saw J.T. Barrett at the College Football Awards. He was up, of course, for a couple of those awards, or at least one. And, just his attitude after a season that at times was so high and at times was also so low. It's been a little bit of the microcosm of his career there. But he will still go down as one of the best players, I think, in Ohio State history, just with the commitment he's made to leadership and the way that he's played on the field at times. Who shows up in this one? J.T. Barrett has an opportunity to put a huge exclamation point on his career as a Buckeye. And like you said, Sam Darnold, this might be the last game we see from him as a Trojan.
Meanwhile, that's not the only game we're going to be talking about today. There is another one. Yeah.
The Peach.
The Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Auburn gets to go right back to the same place they got hammered a few weeks ago. Josh Heupel. He is the new UCF coach, comes from Mizzou, where he worked under Barry Odom.
Of course, Scott Frost will still be coaching this game.
Yep, he will.
Heupel will be around, though.
We'll spend a lot of time. And we are delighted to welcome in the new coach at UCF, taking over for Scott Frost, Coach Josh Heupel, leaving the University of Missouri. Coach, thank you very much. It has to be an incredible feeling for you and your family, as well as your staff that you're putting together.
Yeah, absolutely. We're obviously delighted to be here. Great university with a great administration, and one of the fastest growing cities in America. And obviously, you look at what they've been able to do here the last couple of years. They got a special group of young men inside the locker room, and really feel like this is a great opportunity for my family and our coaching staff as well.
Yeah, Josh, what have you identified about your offensive system that works so well at Missouri that you think you can go ahead and implement at UCF, a team that was known this past year for being really high-powered offensively?
Yeah, they are. They got a lot of great skilled kids and got a special quarterback. And if you're going to have a championship team and be really explosive on offense, at the end of the day, you better have a trigger guy. And we certainly have that here. Had that when we were at Missouri this past year as well. And so I think it starts there. But I think I think at Missouri we were able to utilize our skill, put them in a position to be successful, utilize their speed and create a lot of explosive plays and put people in space and then run the ball extremely efficiently as well with having a physical nature and all of those pieces are here. You look at where we're able to recruit from, what's here on the roster. There's a tremendous amount of speed when you look at our skill players. A lot of guys that have the ability once they get their ball in their hands to create a big play and take it to the house and so I think that's the easy transition for us offensively in what we do. At the end of the day, you still got to put your position, your skill players in a great position to be successful. So we'll be subtly different than we were at Missouri because we're going to ask these kids to do things that they're good at.
Coach, as you get ready to take over this job, certainly there's a bowl game. Coach Frost is involved in that. Take us through what exactly happens now as the team gets ready for the bowl game and what your role will be in all of it.
Yeah, it certainly is unique, to say the least. But I think, the bowl game is really about the 2017 season. I think our kids are extremely excited about the opportunity to go play Auburn in the Peach Bowl. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Frost and what he's been able to do. I've known him for a long time. And, so I'm excited to get an opportunity to watch them practice, watch them go through the process, learn a lot about the players that we have currently on the roster. I won't be in game planning or anything like that. The previous staff will handle all of that. And at the end of the day, give our kids the best chance to go out there and be successful.
Coach, you mentioned having a trigger man, and Mackenzie Milton, obviously that guy that is able to do so much of that, as you said. What do you look for when you do have an opportunity in practice that you'll kind of identify as things that you like about him that will fit in whatever you want to do offensively?
Well, I already started to do that. We've watched tape, the guys that are here currently and certainly myself of, who's here on the roster to identify, some of the needs that we maybe have during this early recruiting process before we even get into the second signing day in February. So just, watching him, he has a great understanding of the game. He does a great job of continuing to find ways to make plays when things break down inside of the pocket. He's got the ability to stretch the field vertically with his arm, and is extremely accurate and very decisive. And all those aspects as far as the mental side of the game are ultimately what allow a quarterback to be so efficient, which he has been this year.
Coach, if I could step back a little bit from where you are now to your path to this point, we make a big deal in my business, not yours, but in mine, about young coaches taking over, becoming head coaches. Where have you learned and how are you prepared to take this very big move right now?
I think all of my experiences, dating all the way back to being a young kid and, going with my dad, who was a Division II head coach, to his building and sitting around in staff meetings, sitting in, he was a defensive guy, sitting in defensive meetings. So you start to gather some of the things that have allowed players to be successful and programs to be successful at a really young age. And then certainly, some of the coaches that have had dramatic impacts on my career, whether that's, offense coordinator Mike Leach, who recruited me to Oklahoma. Certainly Coach Stoops as a head coach there. But the last couple of stops as well. And Coach Odom has had a dramatic impact on me. His competitive nature, the way he's able to develop real relationships with players that are deep and meaningful and have nothing to do with what's happening on the field, but everything that's outside of the game, and how that lends itself to you being successful ultimately on the field as well. So you draw on all those experiences and you take the things that you really like from all of them, and then you obviously try to roll it all up into your program and at the end of the day be true to who you are.
Coach, obviously with experience in the SEC, you know what it's like to play against really talented teams. The American Conference continues to be a conference that I personally think, after doing a lot of their games, is really good and really talented and full of a ton of guys that sometimes will have a chip on their shoulder. What have you identified about this conference and just some of the competition that you'll face next year, FAU, USF, some of these teams even in-state as well?
It certainly is a league that has a ton of talent. There's a lot of speed at the skill position on both sides of the ball in this league. A lot of special skill players. It is a league that maybe guys have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, but I think it's got a lot of innovative guys on the offensive side of the ball, and on the defensive side of the ball, it's got a lot of guys that play really aggressive and try to disrupt the offensive rhythm and flow and try to create negative plays. So I think it's one of the most exciting brands of football in all of college football, and really excited about the opportunity to go out and compete in it next year.
Coach, congratulations again. I know this is going to be an exciting opportunity for you. We hope to talk to you again very, very soon. Absolutely.
As always, I appreciate it.
Such a weird game.
I know. It really is.
I mean, Auburn failed to show up last year in the Sugar Bowl after a disappointing end, and I know Malzahn has talked about how important the game is, but you have Scott Frost, and again, there's certainly some motivation on his part, but it's also got to be very distracting.
Yeah, the one thing I would say about Scott Frost that's interesting, too, is that he's taking the entire UCF staff to Nebraska.
Feelings, I'm sure.
So there's just some weirdness there, and I like that he's coaching in this game. I really do. I think it's kind of cool. Just because of his ties to these players, I think they understand it, whatever. He's brought them to where he's brought them to. He's been the reason, or one of the reasons, why UCF has been so successful. But you just wonder if it's the best thing for them. And then, like you said, on the Auburn side of things, that's a team that could have been, if they had won the SEC championship game, they would have been in the college football playoff.
Yeah. I mean,
you can't say it's not a letdown.
I mean, Ohio State has bitter disappointment, but the difference between Ohio State and Auburn, Ohio State won a championship. I mean, they're coming off of a high. Auburn's coming off of, we just got through beating this team 3 weeks ago. Now we got beaten, and we're sitting there watching our biggest rival get in the college football playoff, and our second biggest rival just beat us. And we get to go to Atlanta.
Right, and they beat their biggest rival and put them in a situation where, they were not, they were waiting on other things to happen. The one thing, too, though, is that it was a tough task for Auburn. I mean, let's not forget that. The fact that they did beat number one teams back-to-back, and then you had to beat another one, beat Georgia again. You knew that Georgia was going to be able to game plan you, and they were going to be ready for that one. But and Georgia's certainly a very talented team. But as well as Auburn was playing, it was perplexing that they lost. Yeah. In my opinion, it was perplexing the way they lost.
And what really hurts is that in that state, as you know, Laura, because you've spent so much time there, I mean, winning the Iron Bowl is supposed to carry such great bragging rights. Yeah. But I mean, what Auburn fan is going to brag to an Alabama fan at the Christmas table
UCF.
when they're going? Alabama's going to the playoffs, and Auburn's getting in the truck and driving 2 hours over to Atlanta to play a team that they're not excited to see.
Okay, and Okay, you mentioned that. And here's the thing. UCF deserves a ton of credit. They are a very good football team.
But Auburn just got through playing Georgia and Alabama.
Right, and I just wonder if that works in UCF's favor a little more. I'm not saying Auburn's going to disrespect them. I really don't think they will. I think the Auburn players will not disrespect UCF. Maybe some of their fans will. I don't think they will.
I just don't think there's any motivation. I mean, you have beaten, as everyone knows, the number one team twice. You played for the SEC championship. You miss out on the playoffs while the team you beat gets in the playoffs. And you get to go play UCF, and it's not like you've covered UCF games, you know them, but these Auburn players, they know the SEC. Their biggest non-conference game this year was at Clemson. I mean, they played Georgia, Alabama, and now they're going. And it's one thing if they were playing this game in Hawaii, but they're playing it in Atlanta.
Hey, don't knock on the ATL, my hometown. One thing too, Paul, we will know if UCF is the real deal because say what you want about Auburn's motivation, I do think they'll be motivated for this one in some way, shape, or form. Not quite maybe the same they were for the Iron Bowl, but we'll know. These athletes on the Auburn side are legitimate, and we think they are on UCF's side. But people have argued about the competition they've played. So now you see SEC against UCF. What ends up happening? Okay, 2007, though, and when you think about motivation, this is Boise State in a big one. They ended up doing quite well in this game. Coming up next, we'll talk about their motivation in the Vegas Bowl. Brian Harsin, their head coach, joins us with more.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Well, Boise State knows a thing or two about, I guess we're on camera now. Hello, everyone. They know a thing or two about, Paul, knocking off teams that maybe are favored over them in bowl games. And for that game, Brian Harsin, the current head coach, was the offensive coordinator. So he's very familiar with that. For this game, like I said, he's the current head coach. Vegas Bowl, 25th ranked Boise State against Oregon. Oregon, of course, dealing with not having Willie Taggart anymore. This game Saturday, 3:30 Eastern on ESPN. You can also catch it on the app, and you kind of see how this matchup looks. And, Oregon right now, they're looking to try and prove that they're okay without their coach. Boise State trying to knock them off.
We're happy to be joined by Brian Harsin, the head coach at Boise. Coach, thank you very much, and you're getting things started in a big way this weekend. I know it's a big treat and an honor for your team to be on the opening weekend of the bowl season.
Well, it is. Paul, Laura, thanks for having us on, and it certainly is. Our guys are excited, and the way it all fell with the championship game and really having like a bye week before this bowl game is what it felt like, just to get back out there and play and to be on that stage against Oregon and to be one of the opening bowl games and to be in Vegas here. It's been a wonderful trip. They do a great job at the Vegas Bowl. Our guys are excited, get to play against a great opponent, and looking forward to getting this thing kicked off Saturday afternoon.
Coach, you mentioned winning the championship in the Mountain West, and it was just fascinating to watch. Final week of the season, you guys lose to Fresno State. Then you have a rematch against them, and you're able to beat them. What was that like, just game planning for a team that you had seen so recently, and then being able to come out on top?
Yeah, we kind of looked at it after the first game. We looked at it as 8 quarters of football, and we were in this extended halftime for that next week of preparing, basically. And we were coming out into the second game. We were behind. That was the mindset. And certainly the first game we played, we're there to win, but we didn't. And, that carried over through the week, the focus, the prep, and then our guys wanting to go out there and on the big stage in the championship game find a way to win. So I think it was one of those, they won the battle, we won the war type mentality, and our guys were able to get it done, and we did it on the blue and found a way to win a championship. And that's the goal at the beginning of every single year. How do we get to that game? And then if we do, or when we do, how do we find a way to win it?
Coach, you mentioned, of course, opening the bowl season this weekend. There are so many distractions between the championship weekend of the last game. Obviously, on the Oregon side, we've seen coaching changes. But how do you keep your team grounded and not let all the outside noise of the holidays and everything else get in the way?
Try to carry it over from what we talked about throughout the season. We've been talking about, even since last January when we came back, for us, avoid the noise and just really focusing on what do we have to do within this building to become a better football team. How do we become more unified? How do we get better at the game? How do we continue to do things in our life that help us to be successful? So that message has been talked about from our staff and players, certainly myself, for quite some time. So no different going into this week. There are a lot more distractions. There are a lot of things happening right now, playoffs, championships, like you said, changes in coaches and different things. So really it goes right back to what really matters is inside these walls, and this is what we can control, and just staying focused on that and doing it day to day, assuming nothing. And hopefully when we do those things, I know this with our team, when we do those day in and day outs, we show up at the end of the week and we're ready to play. Because it doesn't magically just happen on game day. And I think our guys and coaches have done a really good job of that.
Coach, you found a lot of success offensively with both Brett Rippon and Montel Cozart at the quarterback spot. And then you've got a weapon like Cedric Wilson, who any team would love to have. How have you seen those guys just in preparation for this game? And what do you think they'll be able to do against an Oregon team that certainly has some talent as well?
Well, they're going to have to play well, and they know that. They know that throughout the season. Those two quarterbacks in particular, they've done a great job handling, going back and forth throughout the season, and done a great job with that. Support each other, and that's been something we've utilized to help us win on the offensive side. Ced Wilson, certainly a weapon, and Ced's about as consistent as any player we've ever had. He prepares himself every week. He shows up every game. He's ready, and he's a big-time player. And so those guys getting themselves finishing through this week and getting themselves ready to play is what they're doing right now, and expect all three of them to step up and Ced to go out there and have an opportunity to hopefully have a big game and win some of those one-on-one matchups. Oregon's got great team speed. We got to try to find ways to match that somewhere in the game plan and take advantage of it.
Coach, finally, and maybe a little bit lighter note, you're in Vegas, and I know you're trying to avoid being part of Hangover 4 with your team, but how do you mentioned noise earlier, how do you keep your team away from all the bright lights and everything else in that town?
Well, we haven't. I guess the one thing we've done is in the mornings we've been meeting, preparing ourselves and going to practice. In the evenings, these guys have put in the work, and they're enjoying the opportunities that the bowl game has given them, and we want them to as well. At the same time, just understand how we do things. Do it with class. We're appreciative of the opportunity. I think every one of our players enjoys what the bowl has done for them, but just doing it the right way. And so enjoy Vegas while we're here. At the same time, make sure that we stay focused when we need to on the task at hand. And, so far our guys have done that. And certainly want them to enjoy that. That's part of all that hard work throughout the season is to be in a bowl game like this and to enjoy it, but at the same time knowing at the end of it we have a task, and that's to try to win the bowl game and finish the season the right way.
Thank you so much, Coach, for your time, and we will be watching this game. Absolutely can't wait to see what you guys do.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much, and go Broncos.
Thank you, Coach.
So this is who they're going to have to deal with, Paul. Justin Herbert for the Oregon Ducks. A big part of the success that they were able to have in the Pac-12. And certainly you would expect they are game planning as hard as they can against the way that Herbert will play. Plenty more to come on the Paul Finebaum Show.
And we are going to talk to Luis Perez. He has won a big-time award. Just got it. We'll talk to him coming up here in just a moment.
We're back, and some championships will be won this weekend. You see the NCAA football championship games, Division III, the Amos Alonzo Stag Bowls Friday between Mount Union and Mary Hardin Baylor. That's 7 Eastern on ESPNU, also streaming live on the ESPN app. And then Division II, West Florida against Texas A&M Commerce, 6 Eastern on ESPN2 on Saturday. And the Texas A&M Commerce quarterback is Luis Perez. He may be the most interesting man in all of college football. This guy just won the Harlan Hill Trophy. That's the Division II equivalent of the Heisman Trophy, and we are honored to have him joining us now. And Luis, I mean, you just read your story, and it's unreal. You went from being a bowler, a very good one at that, not having played a down of varsity football in high school, to now being this huge award winner and having an opportunity to play for a national championship. Just walk us through your journey, how you got to this point.
Well, starting off, I had a dream, and I've been told by my parents and just dream big. So my dream big was to, hopefully make it to the NFL one day and play college football. So the moment I had that dream, I pursued it and I went all in. So, and little by little, just stuck with it. Great supporting cast around me, whether it's family or players on the field, coaches, all that, and here I am today. So.
Hey, Luis, I can't relate to being a great quarterback, but I can bowl.
No, you can't.
Talk a little bit about that first, because I'm fascinated how you went from one to the other and have done it quite well.
Bowling, so that was kind of my sport that I picked up around age 10, and, I just enjoyed it. It was one of those things that it was recreational, and then, bought my own bowling ball, got my own shoes, and then it just became, I joined leagues, joined tournaments, and I got pretty good. So then I pursued it, and then I had a vision before that I wanted to make it to the PBA, and then I sat back and told myself, hey, I can bowl until I'm 50 years old. So, let's pursue this NFL dream first, and then we can go back to that later. So.
Yeah. Hey, 12 career 300 bowling games. I don't know what that's like, because every time I bowl, I have to put the gutters up. Luis, when you were able to get an opportunity to be the quarterback at Texas A&M Commerce, what was it like when you first ran on that field? And, it's obviously such a departure from what you were doing before.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it was different for sure. I mean, coming from a junior college, coming up to a very known Division II powerhouse, I mean, speed of the game was different, bunch of different coverages, different fronts, all that kind of stuff. But, I pride in being a hard worker and just being able to be a sponge and learn from all these great coaches, and shoot, I mean, that's why I am today, just from being a hard worker and having great supporting cast around me.
Luis, I read somewhere you walked on, you were actually the 9th string quarterback. I've never heard of a 9th string quarterback. I mean, why so many quarterbacks? And you certainly advanced quite well.
Yeah, so it was a tryout back at my junior college, and yeah, you're right. I was 9th string. All these 8 guys played high school football, so I was number 9 just because of that. And little by little, I just worked my way up. People switched positions, transferred out. Just didn't want to play football anymore, switched sports, and shoot, I got my opportunity when I got it, and I just took the best of it.
Luis, I'm sure you've seen what Baker Mayfield's been able to do, the first walk-on ever to win a Heisman Trophy. I feel like there are some similarities between you two, just fighting for what you believe in and reaching those goals. And now, of course, you've won the Heisman Trophy equivalent in your Division II football. What would you say about Baker, and maybe do you know him, or just watching him, if that's inspired you at all?
I actually don't know Baker personally, but, I do have some friends that know him and all that, and he's just a hard worker, from what I hear, and I watch him every Saturday. I watch him. I love his style of play. He's a fantastic football player. Our games are a little bit different, but he's a fantastic player, and I definitely love watching him.
Listen, you've won this incredibly prestigious award. Now you're trying to win a championship. Put into words what that would mean to you and your teammates.
Oh, I mean, I can't even describe it. I can't describe it. The Harlan Hill, that's awesome that I won, but this one coming up Saturday, that's my main goal. So we're going to get after it and hopefully win that.
Luis, thank you so much for your time, and we can't wait to watch you in action on Saturday with your team and see how it all ends up. We appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Well, that's not the only game this weekend, Paul. The Mount Union Purple Raiders lucky number 13, maybe. They're seeking their 13th Division III national title all since 1993. I mean, say what you want about the competition level and whatever. Who
Nick
cares?
Saban know about this?
I think Nick Saban should be concerned. I mean, this streak is absolutely unreal. To me, this is so impressive. When you see programs that have a streak of winning like this, you just never know the different factors that might come into play that would make you lose a game. This is hard to do no matter what level we're talking about.
Alabama fans are going to start claiming more championships now that they've seen that. That is remarkable. It's inconceivable to think about that much success.
Yeah, I love that we are profiling and highlighting these teams that have an opportunity on this level to win championships, and I think it's cool. I mean, everyone wants to talk about the college football playoff. Obviously, that's the pinnacle of college football, but these young men are working really hard. They're making memories out there, and some of them will have a chance to play in the NFL. You see a lot of times where when they introduce NFL players and they say where they went to college or if they went to junior college, whatever it may be. And you just see a lot of them end up having success at the next level. But even if they don't, I think these championships are great memories. These are on ESPN, too. They're nationally broadcasted. And I really like that. I'm glad that we're able to highlight them that way.
We've gotten along unusually well for us, so I'll agree with you on that. But the agreement may be coming to a screeching halt.
Uh-oh.
He says, she says, coming up.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to agree on that.
No,
not
even close. Fun's over. Game begins. We welcome you back. It is the long-awaited, eagerly anticipated He Said, She Said.
He says, she says.
He said. You know, they should not. Sonny Dykes has no business coaching in a game. He barely knows the name of the school that he's at, let alone the players on the team. I get he wants to understand what he has inherited, what he has been hired to do, but I don't think he has any business coaching players that he is seeing literally for the first time.
I have no problem with this at all. I actually think it's great. He's coming in. They don't really have another option right now, Paul, so who else is going to coach it? And this gives him an opportunity to see how he reacts in game with guys. It's almost like a preseason game way before next season. I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, but it's a bowl game. It's not a preseason
It doesn't
game.
matter. It's still another game that gives him a chance to see what he can do. Okay, so here's our next topic. Should star players sit out bowl games? I think this is horrible. I am anti-star players sitting out bowl games, and I actually wish that the NFL would care more about this because I think it's a bad precedent to set. I think players should play in these bowl games, especially when they've led their team all season long and been important to their team. You know, you have insurance policies for a reason. Take out an insurance policy. Make sure that you're protecting yourself from that standpoint, and don't sit out the bowl game.
Did I hear you say the NFL should get involved? I mean, the NFL has way too many problems. They don't need to be involved. They don't need to be involved with college players. If a player doesn't want to play in a meaningless bowl game, good for him.
But then what kind of standards is that set? If we have our star players in college football,
Boy Scouts here, Laura. This is college
it's not
football.
about Boy Scouts. It's about saying that you care about your team all season long, and then you don't play in the game. I hate that. I think it's awful.
Has the college football season lost luster? Yes, it has. It runs out of gas after the championship weekend. And I know what you're going to say. Yes, the Army-Navy game is great, the Heisman, but it's not that great. College football needs to have a summit and figure out what to do so it doesn't just leave the sport cold. I mean, this has been the dullest college football week I've ever seen. If there was a playoff game, if there was something else going on, but instead, nothing's happening.
I like the build-up to these playoff games. I actually think it's fun that we have time here to see these teams get healthy and have a chance to be truly prepared for these games.
You just want to go off on trips so you don't have to worry about it.
No, I didn't go on any trip. I went on a mandatory trip somewhere I had to go. Seriously, I like it. I think it's fine. And I think people are going to tune into college football no matter when it is, no matter where it is. Bowl games,
That is an antediluvian thinking for someone as young as you.
What did you say, antediluvian? All right. We'll be back with more final thoughts. Final thoughts. Yeah, exactly. They will include a thesaurus to explain Paul's vocabulary. I mean, do you have the definition?
I do.
Okay. Are you going to give it to us?
No, I'm not.
Oh, all right. We'll be back.